Celestine's story is about a woman whose husband gets seriously injured, and after the accident, he can no longer fulfill her personal needs. That loneliness slowly pushes her toward the main working under them. But what happens after that is where the story takes a dark turn. The story begins inside a mining site, where several workers are deep underground doing their jobs, and then, out of nowhere, a massive explosion rips through the mine. Panic instantly spreads across the faces of everyone trapped inside. A man named Alaric, who also works there, rushes straight into the chaos to help pull people out alive. But not everyone makes it. One of the workers, Victor, is killed in the blast, and later, his body is brought back home to his family. After that, we're taken to a lavish party, where we meet a beautiful young woman named Celestine. During the event, a wealthy man named Beaumont approaches her. The two start talking, and before long, they're clearly drawn to each other. Soon, they're dancing together while everyone around them watches. Inside that mansion-like estate, people can't stop staring at them, though a few faces in the crowd burn with jealousy. One of those people is a man who secretly loves Celestine himself. But despite that, the connection between Celestine and Beaumont keeps growing stronger, until eventually, they get married. On their wedding day, they promise to stay loyal to each other forever and never walk away. But the very next day, Beaumont has to leave for military duty because he's a soldier. Then during the war, everything changes. Beaumont is badly wounded and sent back home. The entire household waits outside to welcome him back, excited just to see him alive again. Celestine is overwhelmed with happiness the moment she sees him, but then the reality of his condition sinks in. After the injury, the entire lower half of Beaumont's body is left paralyzed. Even through the pain in his eyes, he still tries to appear strong in front of everyone. Helpless and broken inside, he thanks the people around him and slowly heads back into the house. Celestine is grateful he survived, but deep down, she's shattered. Neither of them ever imagined their happy life could fall apart this way. The weight of it all becomes too much for Beaumont, and at one point he even tries to take his own life, but Celestine stops him just in time and promises she'll never leave his side. That night, a heavy silence hangs between them, but despite everything, the love in their hearts for each other is still alive. On the other side of the story, we meet Rowan, a quiet man sitting alone while writing a letter to his fiancée. Unlike the others, Rowan doesn't work in the mines. He spends his days out in the wilderness, but when he returns home after some time away, he catches his fiancée with another man. Without saying a single word, he turns around and leaves. A few days later, Rowan goes looking for work and ends up meeting Beaumont. During their conversation, Beaumont learns that Rowan once worked at the same mine. He's impressed by Rowan almost immediately and offers him a job taking care of the birds on the estate. Because of his disability, Beaumont later buys himself a mobility chair, and whenever he rides through the property in it, it almost feels like he has his legs back again. Then one day, he brings Celestine along to visit Rowan. Rowan lives near the marshlands deep in the woods, where he spends his time caring for birds in isolation. That's the first moment Celestine truly notices him. On the way back, Celestine quietly gestures toward Rowan, but he doesn't understand what she means. Later, one of the servants tells Celestine that Rowan needs the key to his cottage, so she decides to bring it to him herself. But when she finally reaches Rowan, he barely even speaks to her. Even during that very first encounter, there's already a strange tension between them, a quiet attraction neither of them fully understands yet. Rowan tells her there was no reason for her to trouble herself by coming all the way out there. His cold behavior immediately irritates Celestine, and she leaves the cottage upset. The next day, Rowan sends her a letter apologizing for the way he acted. After reading it, Celestine decides to visit him again at his cabin deep in the woods. The only sounds surrounding that quiet little cabin are the smell of rain drifting through the air and the soft rustling of trees in the wind. When Celestine arrives, Rowan is outside working with his shirt off. The second she sees his body, something inside her completely shifts. Heat rushes through her, and she slowly starts walking toward him without even realizing it. But then Rowan notices her and immediately pulls his shirt back on. He respects her too much to let things go further. Celestine is drawn to her more than ever now, so she tells Rowan she's gonna start coming there every day to paint. Rowan offers to clean the place up for her and says he can stay somewhere else while she's there, but Celestine stops him and asks why he keeps trying to avoid her. Frustrated, she turns to leave, but suddenly, heavy rain starts pouring down. As the rain falls around them, the feelings they've both been hiding slowly begin rising to the surface. The storm forces them into another nearby cabin, where they sit beside the fire trying to warm themselves up. In that moment, the silence between them feels less awkward and more like the beginning of some unfinished love story. That's when Rowan suddenly gets up and walks away, because by now, he fully understands what Celestine wants from him. She asks him why he keeps running from her, and Rowan quietly admits that he isn't running. He's scared. If Beaumont ever finds out about them, he'll lose everything, including his job. Celestine leaves hurt and frustrated because Rowan awakened feelings inside her, only to pull away again. A few days later, she tells Beaumont how deeply it hurts her that they still don't have a child. Beaumont tells her he's trying his best, and desperate to fix his condition, he starts using electric shock therapy on himself in hopes that his body will respond again. Yet, the atmosphere inside that room feels painfully heavy, filled with helplessness and emotional exhaustion. Beaumont screams in agony through the treatment, and by the end, Celestine can't bear watching him suffer anymore. She stops Rowan from continuing the procedure. Beaumont completely breaks down after realizing he failed again, and eventually, he starts crying. The next day, Celestine walks alone into the woods and sits there quietly, overwhelmed by everything she's carrying inside. But then she hears Rowan working nearby and immediately goes to him. When she reaches the cabin, she notices several tiny baby chicks nearby, and the sight of them instantly breaks her emotionally. Looking at them reminds her of the child she may never have. Seeing her cry, Rowan walks over and pulls pulls her into his arms. By now, he's fallen for her too, and instead of letting her go this time, he takes her inside the cabin with him. That's where the two finally give in to their feelings and sleep together. Celestine stays with Rowan the entire day. Out there in the isolation of the woods, for the first time in a long while, both of them finally feel comfort, warmth, and a sense of belonging. As evening starts settling in, Rowan walks Celestine back home. Before leaving, she asks him if he regrets what happened between them. Rowan looks at her honestly and tells her no, because he's fallen in love with her, and in his eyes, she belongs only to him. That same night, a violent storm tears across the property while thunder crashes through the sky. Rowan can't stop thinking about Celestine, so he drinks himself nearly unconscious. At the same time, Celestine lies awake in bed, unable to sleep because she can't get him out of her mind either. Inside the freezing winds of that stormy night, both of them are completely consumed by thoughts of each other. Then Celestine notices the faint light glowing from Rowan's cabin through her bedroom window, and she can't resist anymore. She runs through the storm straight to him. One of the housemaids secretly sees her leaving, but Celestine doesn't care, and when she arrives, Rowan is already waiting for her. Rowan admits he never thought she would actually come to see him. Celestine looks at him and tells him she could never leave him alone. And then once again, the two lose themselves in each other completely. A few days later, Beaumont hosts a large party at the estate. During the gathering, Duncan is there as well. At one point, Beaumont notices Celestine dancing with Duncan, and the sight immediately bothers him more than he expected. The next morning, Beaumont tells Celestine something painful. He says that to her, having a child matters more than her own husband now. Celestine has always wanted a child, and Beaumont starts believing that's the reason she's getting closer to Duncan. The accusation immediately angers her. But then Beaumont says something shocking. He tells her he doesn't care who she has a child with, as long as the baby is legally his. Furious after hearing that, Celestine storms out and goes straight to Rowan, and once she's with him, the two sleep together again. Not long after, Celestine realizes she's pregnant. She tells Beaumont the news, and for the first time in a long while, he looks genuinely happy, but then he asks her who the father is. Celestine refuses to answer. In that moment, happiness isn't the only thing growing inside her. Fear and confusion are growing too. One day, Duncan goes to visit Rowan and asks Celestine to come along with him. The two are about to leave when Rowan suddenly walks up behind Celestine and kisses her, but right in the middle of it, Beaumont calls out to her from a distance. His mobility chair has gotten stuck in the mud. Rowan immediately steps in to help push him out, but while Rowan struggles through the thick mud, Beaumont suddenly starts laughing uncontrollably. Years of working in the mines have destroyed Rowan's lungs, and every breath now sounds painful. Still, he finally manages to free the chair before walking away coughing heavily. Watching Rowan struggle there in the rain and mud slowly tears Celestine apart inside. She can't stop thinking about him after that moment, and that's when she fully realizes something. Rowan is no longer just emotional support to her anymore. He's become a part of her life. Their connection has grown so deep now that even distance can't pull them apart anymore. Rowan finally opens up to Celestine in anger. He tells her he spent 12 years working in Beaumont's mines until the dust destroyed his lungs, and after that, they pushed him away to live out in the woods. He says his life could never be like hers, and tells her she should go back to her husband. Then one day, one of the housemaids enters Celestine's quarters and finds her personal journal. After raiding it, she realizes the baby Celestine is carrying actually belongs to Rowan. Meanwhile, Beaumont throws a large celebration at the estate because of the pregnancy. Around the same time, Celestine goes back to see the doctor. That's when the doctor reveals something important. The baby is already 8 months along. The truth is slowly starting to come out now, and the tension between everyone keeps getting worse. When Celestine returns home, Beaumont is furious after learning the timeline doesn't add up. Desperate for answers, Celestine rushes back to the doctor and demands to know who told him the truth, but the doctor refuses to answer. At first, Celestine thinks Rowan must have said something, but then the doctor assures her that Rowan never told anyone. Hearing that completely breaks her emotionally, and through tears, she finally admits how deeply in love she is with him. Then the doctor steps closer and quietly apologizes before warning her to go find Rowan immediately, because her husband might try to kill him. The second Celestine hears those words, fear completely takes over her face. Without wasting another second, she rushes out to find Rowan, because now, nothing matters more to her than his safety. At that point, only one fear remains in her heart, losing Rowan forever. Hearing that warning, Celestine runs straight to Rowan's cabin in panic, but when she gets there, the place is empty. Thinking something may have already happened to him, she completely breaks down crying. Then suddenly, Rowan returns. The second she sees him, she throws her arms around him in relief. After that, Celestine goes back to Beaumont's estate and asks him for a divorce. Beaumont immediately refuses and demands that Rowan be brought there as well. Once Rowan arrives, the tension inside the house explodes, and the two men begin arguing face to face. By then, the entire house feels consumed by broken relationships and unresolved emotions. In the end, Celestine and Rowan decide to leave the estate together for good, and just as they're about to go, Beaumont finally gives in and agrees to the divorce. After leaving everything behind, Celestine and Rowan move far away from Beaumont and begin living together permanently, and that's where the story finally comes to an end. Now tell me, if you were in Beaumont's place, what would you have done? If you enjoy emotional and shocking movie stories like this, then make sure to subscribe to HOPKART Peru, because every story here leaves you thinking long after it ends.